Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today's episode, we got a couple of things going on here. We got some more new parts. We're going to be working on the engine bay. I got to get this thing painted before we do anything. So what has to happen is we got to weld some holes shut in the firewall, because as you saw in the last one, we got new heater boxes, so we're not using the factory holes. Like, I had these electrical connectors in, but they weren't perfectly mounted holes, so there was ways for fire to get in. So we're removing all that, welding all those holes shut. My buddy Tony, who the Civic I built, is going to paint the bay down at his shop. I might make him do the body work, because I honestly hate body work, and it'd probably take him a couple hours to do the little bit of body work it's going to need. So I might just weld it all in, grind it, get it ready for filler and stuff like that, and then just have him do that and paint it. We're almost in February. February's next week. I haven't heard anything from the machine shop yet, which not surprising to me. So we got to get the holes filled. So we're going to start cutting templates for that, weld up the holes in that, and then once that gets painted, I'm pretty much most apart on standby, waiting for the short block to come back. And we got a special guest today, so let's jump into it. Like I said, we're going to be working on the engine bay today, because this needs to get painted. Once this gets painted, I can start assembling stuff back into it. You know, the brake master, get all the brake lines back in, the wiper stuff. I'm trying to figure out a way to put the wiper motor inside the cowl. Someone's done it, but I can't find clear pictures. There's a guy, whatever the hell his name is on YouTube, but he mounts it in the fender. I can't do that because that's where my exhaust runs. A wiper motor on a Volkswagen the other day, and the motor's half as small. I gotta see if that's a usable piece, because if it's half the size, it would make it way easier. The factory one is huge, and I don't know how that guy did it without customizing a whole lot. If I get a smaller motor, then I don't really have to customize the linkage all that much. So I have the old motor out of the Volkswagen, but I have to look at the pinouts, because Germans love to do stuff electrically controlled. I mean, it's all electric to begin with, but I got to make sure, like, it's not ran on CAN or anything like that. It's only 4 wires, so I don't think it is, but I got to do a little bit more research to go that far. So we got to get this situated. You know, I can start mounting everything back on. Not the turbos, those got to get out, but once the engine bay is done, then I could jack this thing up, get this thing on stands, and we could tear all the shocks out. Got to replace the Heims and the control arms, and we got to send the shocks out to get rebuilt, because this one's leaking and they need to be revalved. Along with the rear ones, I want to get the rear ones revalved as well. These were set up for a radial prep, but I think they need to be tighter, because when I was on Street and E, I had these things full tight, and then I still had to use limiters. So I'd rather have those revalved than just trying to band-aid it with and hang weight. So that's what we're gonna do. You can see I started making templates. This is the factory HVAC hole, and these are the 2 holes I drilled. And I think it's just gonna be easier to cut this whole thing out and weld one piece in instead of trying to fill all that in. So that's what we're gonna do there. And I gotta fill this hole in, but that's a perfectly round one, so that's nice and easy. But before we start the work on that, let's meet our special guest and go over some of the new parts we got. So if you've been following along on my Facebook, if you've been there, you know me and this guy Steve just are constantly at each other. He thinks we're friends. I think otherwise. He kind of just shows up, but he's constantly there. He's always there. So I put up a poll, because he thinks he's going to make this YouTube better. So I put up a poll on my Facebook to see if you guys wanted to see him on the channel versus not. Sadly, I lost the poll and I have to have this guy here. So let me introduce you guys to Steve. Welcome, Steve. How is everything? This is Steve. Steve on a stick. What are we gonna do today, Steve? Oh, I got coffee on you, buddy. I'm sorry. We are going to play with new parts, and we are going to look at the new cylinder heads that I got. Whoa, you like that, Steve? So Steve's gonna come and hang out with us. Doesn't really say much on air. He's a little shy. I get it. It is what it is. It's hard being famous. So we're just gonna hang out with Steve, and we're gonna talk about the new parts. So let's put, where should we hang Steve? You can hang out in the background. And y'all see Steve? Let me move over so y'all can see Steve. All right, so I showed you guys these already that I took out. This is just your basic firewall through steel connection, you know, bulkhead for your power and grounds. So this is what I had in the car. But what I did was I jumped on Maven website, which I am a dealer for, and I picked up these really trick pass-through bulkhead connector fittings. And he doesn't make these. They're from Amphenol, but they're called Radlocks. All right, and this is one of the variations of a Radlock. There's tons and tons of different ones, and they're actually being used in the OE world as well. I saw it on a Jeep battery cable the other day, and I'm like, that gave me an even better idea. But as you can see, you got your bulkhead right there. It comes with even got a gasket on it, which is nice. Came with all stainless button heads and nuts. Probably a little dab of Loctite on there. I opted to get crimp fitting on the back because I'm very rarely going to take this off. So he even provides the copper brass fitting. And then on this end, this is a crimp down here. Ready? Sorry, they're a little tight. It's just a quick release. So it's just got a push button on it to take it off this stud. All right, and it's like rifled on the inside. You see the rifling, so it makes it nicer. So I got two of those because I'm gonna run a 2-gauge power. I tore. See if we start here. So this car was wired years ago when I had access. I mean, look at the size of the battery cable I had in this. So this is 2-aught, which is a difference from 2-gauge. This is, I don't even remember what the hell this is. This is 2-aught as well, all right? 2-aught battery cable. This crap is heavy. I've been on a streak of weighing stuff. So I got the scale right in front of me. So my battery cable, I went from my battery to kill switch to firewall. Hold on, let me grab the other. Oh, did I throw it away already? Where's my firewall to starter? I think I already threw it out. But 6 pounds. 6 pounds for this. You know, that's a lot of weight, and it's overkill. It is absolutely not needed. And well, let's see what this weighs. So that's 1.2. Take off the battery terminal, pound. So that's probably what's on the starter. So it's probably right around 7 pounds of wiring just for my battery, which isn't needed. This is way overkill. So I ripped out the 2-aught, and I'm going to go with 2-gauge. We'll see. I ordered it. We'll see how much that weighs when it comes in. But I'm tearing, like, all this stuff isn't going back in. I ran, originally, I didn't know you can just loop your alternator wire to your starter wire to get it. So I had 4-gauge, ran all the way to the battery. That's going. So we're at 9.3 pounds in wire that I've already taken out of the car. How much is going back in is yet to be seen. But we're going to weigh it. These are also heavier than the Radlocks as well. These things are super nice, super small. You can get with me to get yours from Maven. You can order straight from Maven, whatever you want to do. And they also come with templates to put on your firewall. So now that I have the way smaller, there's the 4 gauge one. I mean, I'll show you the size of these too. They are tiny. Palm of my hand. That's for the 4 gauge. I'll mount these in a nice flat spot on the firewall. I can mount stuff up coming through the firewall higher now because of not having a whole entire giant heater box there, which I realized in the last video I didn't really tell anybody where that came from, but that was just Summit Racing. Just a generic Summit Racing heater. It's got to be the 9-inch one. Yeah, so it's SUM 991102-1. 9-inch heater with 2 3-inch outlets. That's the one I got. So far I like it. I haven't used it, obviously, but it's small, it's light, it takes up no space. We'll see how that goes. So those are the rad locks. Super, super cool. If I haven't already explained this, this build motor is a budget build. I'm not going all out with an LS. I won't spend the money. Yeah, there's fast people with LSs. 6-bolt blocks that are, you know, this or that and third, but I've explained it many times. Them 6-bolt deals to make big power are big money. And to do what I eventually want to do, you're going to be on the ragged edge. So what I got here are some AFR Enforcer LS1 cylinder heads. Bare. I bought them bare because, let me turn off the scale. The valve train that this comes with is kind of janky. It comes with some pack springs and retainers, but they're not meant to do what we're doing with them. So I bought it bare because I'm going to load it with BTR stuff anyway. I just have to get valves. These come with a little bit bigger valve. Comes with a 202-160. 202-160, which, like, I think a $799 is a 200-155. So it's just a scotch bigger. They say you can't use these on a 378 bore. My buddy Rory has them on 378 bore, and they're working fine. I might put a 2-inch intake valve in it and leave the 160 instead of the 202. I don't know how much horsepower is being left on the table with that. Again, it's a budget deal, like, but for this is an as cast cathedral port, you know, nothing crazy. But what you get here is, see how thick the deck is? That's where the money is, right in that deck. Much better. It's a lot more solid. It's a lot more meat. Let me grab you a stock one to compare. 3 pounds heavier per cylinder head. So it's a good amount of weight. The stock ones feel so much lighter now. This is the busted one. As you can see how much thicker everything is and denser. You know, it's going to make the head stronger by having more material there. You could see the bore, the deck thickness right there versus right there. It's almost double thicker. Doesn't have the freeze out plugs that people pop out when they pressurize the cooling system. It doesn't have that. It's an aftermarket head. It's nice. Bronze valve guys, brass valve guys, whatever the hell they are. So I'll have to be mindful of this with how many street miles I put on. And I have to have these drilled for 1/2-inch studs because the block is. I like the bigger valve because then you get the seat overlay. See how the seats connect right there together? When the factory doesn't, and I can't tell. Oh, you know what? It looks like that one might have a crack. The factory casting, I mean, even aftermarket castings get a crack in between the valves. Not really an issue, but it could turn into an issue. So I'm pretty excited. These are cheap. These things are like, these things are like under $1,000 for a pair. Springs and retainers from BTR are like 300 bucks. Valves, I don't know what that's going to be yet because I haven't decided what I'm going to put it in. I'm probably just going to put stainless intake and exhausts in it and watch it. You know, if I start to tool up exhaust valves, then we might go with something like an Inconel, but Inconels are heavy, so I don't want to add weight to the valve train. Any unnecessary weight. So, you know, now that we're getting up there with a built motor, we'll probably actually pull this thing apart after a season and check on everything just to see. Make sure everything's alright so we don't, especially doing drag and drive deals. Like if I was staying in local tracks that were just staying there, I probably wouldn't pull it apart, but I can't have kicking the rods out of this thing 200, 300 miles away from my trailer. Aftermarket heads. Found my Roomba. By the way, if you got a spare Roomba or a cheap one off Amazon, best thing ever for your garage. It's oddly weird is it's full of hair and the animals don't come down here. You read that? Is it dead? Yeah, she died. I ran it yesterday.
Please charge Roomba.
This was a spare. We got a new one for the house. Amazing. Let's go put Steve on the charger. I gotta find a permanent home for Steve, but let me tell you, the floor in here really ain't ever been cleaner. Pete's blowing it out and making a freaking mess on everything. Come on, Steve. Come help. Come hither. Relax, dude. Relax. Good golly, Steve. Relax, bro. I gotta fine tune it so it fits in there just right. Settle down. So it's interesting. Started pulling away the body filler. The body filler was cracked right here. There's actually a crack in the firewall. I don't know. You know, it's not from where I welded it, because you could see where the old weld is for the fire plate. And nonetheless, I got to fix it, so I just drilled a hole there to stop the crack. And I don't even know, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to weld this and this. It might be easier to just cut this whole thing out. I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking about it. It's thin metal, so it's a pain to weld anyway. Ugh. It's not one thing, it's another. Just walked outside of my trailer and to see if my grinding discs were in there, like the cookie wheels. Can't find them, but it was raining in my trailer. The neighbor's tree fell and put a baseball-sized hole in the roof of my trailer, and that was weeks ago. But I looked up there, I didn't see nothing, and nothing was like punched through the ceiling. Thought it was good. Apparently not, so now I got to deal with that. If it's not one thing, it's another. Fucking Steve. It's all your fault. So, I'm been fitting this plate in and out, getting it close. Spent all this time, and now I found the crack, and I don't know if I should just cut that whole dang section of firewall out and weld in a new piece. It might, like, time-wise, it might be easier. Well, the more I got to cutting, the more I decided to just cut it out. The crack is pretty substantial in the firewall. But the metal's thin there, so I thought it was maybe a flex crack, which is, I mean, don't get me wrong, it cracked because it flexed. But I think it only cracked because that metal's thin. So I'm wondering, when I ground all the welds down, when I originally welded this all up, if I got into that firewall a little deep and didn't even realize it. Because, I mean, it is thin metal. Well, obviously you can see I cut the whole thing out. We got the giant hole right there in the center. Got to, Steve, get your face out of the firewall. I was trying to talk about the firewall, but you put your freaking mouth there. So I got this cut, and it's close. I do some fitting, but it is damn close for the first cut, and then we have to weld it all in. So it looks like a little bit right there. Not bad. let's do some grinding. We'll get back when I fit it. Me and Stevie boy here are gonna end this video. Little short one, but the rest of the work that's gonna get done in this video is not fun. It's not fun to watch. It's not fun to do. I got the plate in. Welds aren't pretty, like usual. So I gotta grind all these. And then I have to do this one down here next, which is gonna be more fun because it's got twists and turns in it. But I was able to cut out the piece in one shot so I could get a good start to a template. Yeah, I mean, I'm much happier doing this way, cutting that whole thing out, because it's a whole lot less welding and a whole lot less work. So like that's in. That might have taken me an hour and a half-ish. Obviously it's not done. I actually have to finish welding up this from here to here, because I gotta go in there and push this out a little bit. It's a little sunk in, so I gotta go give that a little tapper. Grind down the weld. Like I said, I think I'm gonna force Tony to do the body work on it instead of me. Like, it'll take them almost no time compared to me doing it. I think that's gonna about wrap this one up from the Rich and Steve show here. I think he's gonna stick around for a little bit. Nice having someone here that doesn't talk. So this Steve is pretty good. So get in your garage, grab a cold drink, get to work on your hot rod. Spring is fast approaching, and so is race season, you know, in the Northeast. So have a good night.